Okay, how's everybody doing? So this will be the next chapter then, and a bit of an update for everyone, and including all the new subscribers, just to kind of get you into the loop of what's going on. As you know, this is a 3-section shelf layout called River Road, and this is section 1. Sometimes I call it module A, but it's not really a module because it's specific to this layout only, but like it's not compatible with any kind of club layout or anything. And then, of course, this is section 2. There's a seam right in here I can separate, right? As I've explained earlier. I won't go into that, though. And then this section runs all the way down to the end down there. That's about 10, 11 feet, which I'll have shops down there. Like there'll be a transition zone here, just like the prototype with trees, just to, transit from here to here. But then I'll be operating across it. That's the thing, right? There's always something in this game. If you cling legalistically to prototype operations, well then buy a warehouse, because you're never going to fit it in. Like what you see in your theater of your mind and your prototypical, scene, like the track plan. Good luck. Good luck with that. And if you want to build in, maybe 2 signature scenes within, let's say in my case, 26 linear feet, I'm going to do 3. That's a challenge, but I'm going to do it. Then these are the kind of things you have to live with, right? Because in order for me to service the barge slip prototypically, I have to run on this track and out here like this, so I can classify tank cars and whatever hoppers onto this line, which is actually the main that goes up all the way down to the warehouse, which also serves as a lead to serve this warehouse, which is why I couldn't serve the brewery, because I don't have any track beyond the end of the barge ramp there, right? On and on it goes. Compromise, 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 and then revision. I added a second track in here as a type of team track to service the steel company, which used to be serviced by a dual spur off of this warehouse, which is way longer, which is the full length of this wall prototypically. I squeezed down the brewery from off scene, even though it's the next door down, for visual interest, right? I also compressed laterally this way to fit all this in, because the way I did it is I established my footprint, what my tolerances would be with the door there. That's one of the reasons why I put a curve in here, because I gained more square footage with the curve than I would if put a square here and hindered the door, and on it goes. And so I purchased my footprint, 26 feet by 2 feet, let's say. And then I had my prototypical scenes that I wanted to model, namely this one on the first section, which is 10 feet down to the curved backdrop here wall where the steel company Axton is. And by the way, if you want to look up that company I'll be modeling soon, it's called Axton, Axton. It's a stainless steel fabricating industry right on the water of the Fraser by the barge slip. So they ship out with truck and rail. They even load from Axton onto flat cars, because this is all packed out. This is all parking lot, right? And they'll drive a flatbed truck right onto the ferry. They won't even use the rail. So the brewery's not even in service anymore, and this warehouse is not in service either. But I'm going to make it in service, half of it, because I added a turnout where the tank car is in order to create a runaround as a dual purpose, right? You got to make revisions like that. Otherwise, you won't have any fun with your, you won't have any fun with your layout, right? Like you have to, it's the way it is. Like you can't force a prototypical track plan into a footprint. You just won't have the space, right? So that's part of the art of model railroading is understanding that. Like that's important, right? If you want to have a layout that you want to live with for a while and take some pride in, Okay, so I'll just insert this here and just talk about this barge ramp and approach model and all the gack associated with it and how it gets mounted here. So in the build video further back chronologically on the channel, or just go to playlists, you can see how I built this. And I built a solid maple 3/4 inch thick spline that runs down the center of this on top of 3/8 birch plywood, I think it was, or maple, I can't remember now. So the whole model's skinned over a solid hardwood structure. And I did that for a reason, for lateral and longitude stiffness, right? So underneath the water surface is a hole, as you may have noticed earlier in the last episode, and it'll suck this down. Like when I'm ready, like these piles down here, they're just maybe floating an eighth of an inch above the surface. They're locked in with a scarf tab down the end. When I put the bolt in under there and I tighten it up, it sucks the whole model down tight to the water surface. And then you won't even see these piles, so there's no need to even put current ripples in there, except on maybe the outside ones, which I can do with a brush and gel. And the same applies for all this detail here that goes down into the water. Like on the Fraser River, you can't see anything. You can't see 2 inches down into it. It's just so murky, right? So I can add in current and you know, small deviations in the water to suggest and enhance that transitional realism when it's finished, when it's painted. These will be dark oxide red, la da da, just like the prototype photos. And it'll all work beautifully. And then this one here I'll probably leave maybe loose for now, because I'm in the stages of drafting the drawings for the ferry. For the Princess that is owned by C-SPAN, like Dennis Washington, who owns this railway, SRY, also owns C-SPAN. So he has a monopoly on rail marine transport in southern British Columbia. So, because his logo, the line head, which you see on the locomotives, is on all the C-SPAN stuff. But I'm going to do the front of it because I looked at that, even with the idea of building the tug, but that's for another one. I want to do one of the tugs as well. But the C-SPAN, I'm going to do the first 30% of it as a kind of a cassette, a modeled cassette, like the front of it. Like even from this view that you see right here, you'll be able to see the whole front of the ferry up to it, because it'll come out to here, right? And it'll be really cool. I'll be able to fit probably 9 cars on there, I guess. You know, but I won't be operating, like they don't move a lot of freight now anyway through this marine terminal. Like not anymore, they don't. I mean, I was there a while ago. They had 2 tank cars on a barge there waiting. But anyway, so that's in the plan as well. Someone had mentioned it. Yes, I am. How am I going to deal with that with this clean fascia kind of furniture-like looking layout here? Well, I'm going to use, probably, I haven't designed it yet, but I'm going to use like sliders, like drawer sliders that come out, bars with a setup where I can just sit this end of the ferry, which will be a substructure of probably 1/4-inch plywood dressed the same way I did this barge slip. So it'll sit on here and the main weight will be on here, so it's no problem, right? And then I'll have felt underneath the water line. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't do sharp, choppy waves here. Aha, see? Plan, make sure you plan. Think ahead. Anyway, so that'll work well, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do here for detail, because I'm not sure how I'm going to link up that ferry or barge to the front of this ramp, but that'll get solved, right? So that'll all be nice when that's done and implemented. It'll be for more projects to build. And then just while I'm at this angle looking, I want to build one of the tugs too. I have all the photo references in a line drawing. I want to scratch build one of the tugs and the ferry, right? So that's projects, you know, a little ways down the road. And believe me, when I plug in, they go together quick. But anyway, we'll see, because there's so much content here to cover now. And now that this scene is going to come into some kind of fruition, it's a real inspiration when I come in here with my coffee in the morning, if you know what I mean. Okay, so let's go back to the other angle. So I made a few compromises to increase, you know, the options for operation, you know, and running trains, etc. Okay, and then in here there's going to be a big grove of trees with varied species, because that's the way it is on the prototype at this corner here, which will make a transition from section 1 to section 2. And then this whole scene is going to be a sloping road like a New West, which goes to the shops down there. I'm going to heavily compress, but I'm actually going to turn what would have been the rail going down this way because I had to curve the whole plan. But now, because that building, as you see in the photo up there, right? I'll show you a photo quick of it where the track would run. Whereas in the layout, it doesn't run down through there. It curves because it's part of my footprint plan, right? You can't. I don't have 20 feet straight, linear 20 feet. So that's going to be a road still, but no track because the track's here. And it's going to go up a back in behind this grove of trees and be the road that merges in and goes past trap yard shops. Like you'll see all that like probably later in the summer or in the fall when I design that and put that in to make that all work, right? So in a sense, to service the barge slip, you know, my train might be in New West. Like that's just the way it is, right? Like with the shelf layout. But it's all doable. It's all believable. You know, you can, right? I mean, part of the model railroad hobby exists in the theater of our mind as well, right? So, yeah, so back to this then, what I'm going to be doing here is I'm building the office here. It's just a trailer, a short trailer with little neat details here, and there's all the the chain link fencing. There's a short 40-foot trailer. I'll scratch build all these as well. Because I don't want to sacrifice a $25 container. I'll just scrap one, build one out of scrap, and it's unique and different anyway. And all that nice. And then I'm going to pack this track out with 1/8 balsa wood. For a few reasons, I'm going to use balsa wood. The reason why I'm going to use balsa wood is because I have lots of it on hand. We got to use stuff, what we have, right? Otherwise you blow your budget. Not to say that we haven't all blown our budget when it comes to model railroading. So I'm going to be using balsa wood. That was the number one reason because I have it on hand, and I've used it lots of times before for many other applications in the model world, right? But the nice thing about balsa is it's very lightweight, it's stable, it expands and contracts because the most of this bench work is predominantly wood. Well, everything pretty much is. All like the substructures for the buildings is 3/8 ply and 1/4 ply. The whole bench work and water surface, except for this area in here, was all sculpted foam, and the substrate was a mix of not plaster but cell clay and static grass patches and foam, right? Here's the seam, by the way. It's hidden right there. That's it. This is the seam. It comes through here, through the weed bed, separates, and then there's a tongue right here, and the only covered up seam is with the water here. It was the one area that I thought I could get away with it when I planned it. So if I unbolt this section and pop it, because it's got wax paper or parchment paper running all through it, and then I would zip cut the rails here with a Dremel, and I just pull the whole thing apart, and it's movable and savable, right? Okay. So yeah, so this is going to be a lot of just asphalt, and with balsa wood with some probably texture paste, thin skim, I like balsa because you can sand it for one if you need to level to track. It's easy to sand. It takes paint well and glue well. I don't need to use specialized glue, basically, like you would with foam, even though foam is a great modeling medium as well. So that's where my focus is going to be right now. I'm off the trees for now because, I have these ones here, right? Just in closing, I'll just say, like I have these trees here, which I haven't built all the deciduous trees, but these are the conifers that are going to go somewhere in this section. That old growth tree will be pushed back a little ways, and then it'll be, buffered out with smaller trees, and then there will also be, just like on the prototype, as you can see in that photo to the right of the Axton building, there's a big stand of trees in here. And it goes under the Alex Fraser Bridge. And I might I should mention this, I might put a sort of a facade type out of foam Alex Fraser Bridge kind of model sometime down the road, because I'll be lowering the valance. Like the valance fascia will eventually, because I need the space to get in there, but eventually I'll lower the valance fascia down to where my hand is, just so it creates that more tighter shadow box effect, so you don't see any of the lighting or the ceiling. It's all in the plan, my friends. It's all in the plan. And then, to satisfy all you backdrop gurus, I might be doing a backdrop painting, but no clouds, no buildings, anything like that, because you can't see any of it when you're on location. It's just blue sky. However, if you go on the other side over to Delta on the river, you can see the North Shore Mountains way, way off, like many, many miles off in the distance. So I might do a light olive sort of mountain line just to enhance and finish off that British Columbia look, because this scene, as the camera is facing north. So you'd have the North Shore Mountains back there just to break up a lot of that negative space, right? Because all the warehouses are going to be white. But I'll be covering that too when I paint them. But like I say, that's a lot of surface to base out, and I'm going to do it outside when it warms up. And then I can do, minute airbrush work and a lot of hand work with a traditional brush I'll be doing as well to paint, these models to complete the scene, so. And then there's, the wiring, the lighting. So lots of fun, lots of great content coming up. Stay posted. Feel free to subscribe. It's getting exciting, and we've only begun.